2 more months.
Bitcoin Liberty Live.
Hello.
We're back.
Just talking about things that we shouldn't talk about on a podcast. Anyway.
Not safe for podcasts.
Yeah. Or life in general.
Fiat brain. Losing my mind.
Ugh. Disgusting.
What do I say? I'm in survival mode mentally. You're maybe in survival mode in some ways.
I'm about to be in thrival mode.
Thrival mode. Survival to thrival, in hindsight, it was all the same. It was just you didn't see it at the time.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I felt that. Where, when you're in the darkest depths of like, oh, I'm a wreck, or I don't know, and, hope this, and you're drifting.
Yeah.
And then
I've been in that for 54 years.
That is the process in which you engage who you are and what you need to do. Which when I have a fiat job and I just show up and clock in and I do my job, I shut off areas of my thinking that I take for granted and are just like, oh, I don't have to work or think in ways anymore. If I do these things and I pursue the maze, it's all good. I just do my thing. But it's in this sheltered bubble box that isn't thriving. It's just, I'm getting paid. I'm getting paid. And when you're thrust in a position, and I've been here before, some of you have, where you're unexpectedly having to make decisions and move forward in life.
Yeah, fucking life.
You can surprise yourself. Like, you figure it out, and when you figure it out, you realize, thank God I, was given a push or given a kick in the ass. Yeah. And then years from there, I look back and I'm like, that really sucked at the time, but
worth it.
I'm still not there.
Right.
We were just talking about a buddy of mine, laid off yesterday. Long-time career. We'd worked together for a time at Microsoft. Lost his job at another different company later. He's probably maybe 49, 50, and we're of a similar age. And he's hustling, but looking for the next vine to grab corporate-wise.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
What is being stuck versus the next opportunity?
Right. Well, I think that's being stuck, right?
It's kind of being stuck.
It feels stuck. That's not my life. What do I care? It's not my life, not my job. But me personally, I'm not looking for the next corporate vine. I'm not looking for the next government vine.
On the cusp of being free. So
I'm this far away.
If we'd have ordered your book online, we'd have a physical copy of it.
I have a physical copy sitting on my
We should bring
table.
it. The Great Realignment book. Yeah. It's out. It's on Amazon.
Yeah, and on Nostr, sort of. You can go to Habla News, Habla. I know it's Habla, but I don't know. People don't really. I don't know if people.
Understand. H is silent in Spanish.
I know it's silent in Spanish. I don't know if everyone else knows that. So I've been sort of emphasizing the H in Habla. Habla.news. You can read it for free. It's a Nostr publication. Theoretically, it's under my NPub, but I can't see it on Damus. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I don't. It's just
I see an Habla link on Nostr. I click on it, and it goes to your book.
Yeah. So it goes to Habla.news, but there's a link that should show up like a post on my feed that it just doesn't, and I don't know if it's like the relays are telling me to go F myself or
it
what.
Could very well be the app you have. Okay, so when you embed a link, there's a link, right. And then the interpreter looks at the link and says, do I show an icon or just the text, or do I read into it and provide you a picture?
Well, the thing is when I posted to habla.news, it should show up as if I had made a post from Primal or as if I had made a post from Damus. It should show up on my feed because it's Nostr and it's linked to my NPub. So everything when I post on Primal, I say, hey, weather's swell today. That'll show up on my Damus feed. That'll show up everywhere that anyone has my NPub. They'll see my post that says, hey, weather's swell today. And when I posted little blurbs from highlighter.com, which is also a Nostr application, those little blurbs, those little blog posts, so to speak, show up on my timeline as if I had posted it directly from my timeline. So when I posted the book, The Great Realignment, I went, boom, it shows up as a post on habla.news, but it doesn't show up on my Damus or my Primal. It doesn't show up under my NPub. When I post a link to that thing, that shows up, no problem. But the actual book itself does not go out on my feed. I mean, I have like 17 followers on Primal or Nostr or whatever, so it kind of doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's a proof of concept at this point, but down the road, if this is all going to work, how do we do this, folks? But I know I can get to it. I can open it.
Yeah.
And you can get it on Medium. You've put it on X, and it's accessible. Amazon, you can get a book.
But you can actually go buy the book, Kindle version. Making the Kindle version was kind of a pain in the butt, I'm here to tell you. That software is super clunky. Like, it is a memory pig. It is insane, man. It like made my computer... I think it actually shut it off once. Like,
what is it doing?
I have no idea. It's a text editor. I was like, how is this thing taking up so much horsepower? It's probably just like absorbing all my information off my laptop.
It's looking you up and going, do we publish this guy?
But the kind of cool thing is like if you type in The Great Realignment, it's like one of the first links
I found
shows up, which is kind of cool because I think there's another book out that is titled The Great Realignment. I don't know, but I mean, for the time being, like if I don't sell any of them, I think it's going to get buried in the algorithm. But for right now, you can go search on Amazon, find the book.
Yeah, people have bought online. People have received physical copies of it.
Yeah, I sent a couple to the guys over at the Bitcoin Way. We'll see if what they think. I was thinking about reaching out to a couple other people and just seeing if they might be willing to read it, or just.
Oh, they will, and I think you'll be invited to podcasts. And
I hope so. I hope that's what it turns into.
Was there another one coming up? You have one, an appearance somewhere? I can't remember. I thought you mentioned one.
No, I had one last week, and then I had a surprise inspection.
Oh, at the place you work.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was just like I was sitting there going, "All right," and then, "Hey, so and so's here from this place," and I was like, "Why now? What? Oh, surprise inspection. Oh, cool. Let's go."
I guess we're doing this right now.
We're doing this now. Sorry, guys, can't make it. I felt really bad. I really wanted to participate. It was actually like the time before they had invited me. Like it was a topic I wasn't super familiar with. This one I was just like, oh yeah, that's right up my alley. And then I got bounced. And I was like, God dang it. The problem is I've only been on once, right? It's Wolf Web 3. Mm-hmm. I've only been on their roundtable discussion once. And so it's like I've got a 50% flake rate. I'm just like, God dang it. Like,
they're feeling you out.
Yeah, well, I mean, if they are feeling me out, if you're watching this, which I doubt, but on the off chance, I legitimately had like a god dang inspection. So I was just like, can you go away, please? But
when FEMA arrives, you stand in formation.
Yeah.
What do you think of FEMA? There's
they can go fuck themselves. Are you kidding me? Have you seen any of that coverage of that whole fiasco?
Well, not immersed myself in it, but I can well imagine over the years in my careers when there have been big fires or floods, things going on, or at least I've read the news over the years. It's easy to criticize emergency management stuff when there's fog of war, it's chaos, it's asymmetric stuff going on left and right and all over, and you've got way too much general need and you're triaging a big space.
Right.
It's hard. I would say it's impossible. You're walking in saying, hey, we're government, we're here to help.
Right.
And everybody's like, help! And you're like figuring it out. And everyone else is going to complain.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
100%. I totally get it.
Yeah.
It's an impossible job. And there's ways to show up with a box of stuff and then allow for that to make work versus sticking to your policies and bureaucratic stuff. I don't know.
I guess. I don't know.
Or like other people are doing stuff and you're like, no, you stop. Don't do that. You can't. And it's like, can we just do whatever we can?
You would like to think, but they can't. I mean, that's the problem with the Leviathan, is it just sort of ambles along. It's like, there's an old saying in the policing literature, like the criminological policing literature. It's like, if you really want to amplify a problem, just call the cops. And that's always the case, because it's people coming in the middle of something and trying to figure shit out. And it's not always a smooth process. If you listen to the anecdotal reports from the ground, like, there's bodies piling up everywhere, the people are lying to us, it's this complete fucking disaster, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Did we lock the door? I don't think we did. Want to go lock the door?
I'll go lock the door. I'll be right back.
And when people are coming right into the middle of a catastrophe like that, you have those anecdotal reports. For the people on the ground, it always looks worse and it always looks chaotic. From the people with the 10,000-foot view, they are seeing different things. Whether or not they're doing it effectively, I think the likelihood is very low. And, when you're trying to mass coordinate something like that, it's always going to be a disaster. Like you said, It's just a fucking mess. But, the amount of destruction in that area is catastrophic.
It's insane.
But I guarantee you the reason, well, I shouldn't guarantee. I think the reason why that's getting kind of buried.
Yeah, you're not seeing it in a lot of mainstream talk.
Because they don't want to interfere with Kamala Biden's.
Yeah, this is bad, and who's in charge? Buttigieg? I don't know.
Right. Well, all of this reflects poorly on the current administration, and so they're trying to just obfuscate that fact by underreporting it, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
It's just wild speculation on my part, so I don't know. I feel really bad for the people that are out there. Some of these people have just been absolutely wiped out, just catastrophically fucked. And
oh, yeah.
And, but when you start hearing those reports like, well, FEMA's out of money because they spent it all on housing migrants and shit like that, it's like, fuck, man, come on, dude. Like, what are we doing here? Not to mention, the $200 billion aid to Ukraine and,
Yeah, comparatively, it's like priorities here. Seriously, we can't take care of our people.
Well, they're printing the shit out of thin air. Just print some more.
Yeah, hey, print some more if you're playing that game.
Yeah, if you're going to play that game. But there's no profit in helping people that have had their houses wiped out.
Yeah.
So these people are like seizing property. According to anecdotal reports, they're seizing property and they're not letting people back in. They're not allowing aid to come in. And there's twofold to that, too. I mean, you can look at it and go, yeah, why are you guys blocking aid? And then there's the other side of like, why are these guys keep coming in here and fucking up our aid efforts, So I don't know. I mean, I'm not there. I don't know enough about it to have a coherent opinion. But from what I see in my social media bubble that I happen to be slotted into right now, being a Bitcoiner, you are 100% slotted into a bubble. Like you get the kind of, the right-leaning, right-wing bubble. You're 100%.
Yeah. So, even just following Elon Musk.
You're
hello.
Yeah.
He's like, hello. We're trying to help, and this is what's going on. And I know he's prone to, hyperbole.
Yes.
But also, if when you have efforts with resources to say, hey, let's set up Starlink, let's drop some stuff here. We have a helicopter. We're flying around. There are places to land, and FEMA's saying, no, get out of here.
Yeah.
It's like.
Well, again, that's, there's a twofold problem there because you can have people come in and go, we're here to help. And then they go loot a bunch of shit.
Sure.
And it's like, oh, I thought you guys were helping. We are. We're helping ourselves to all of the stuff that's laying around. And we're taking jewelry off dead bodies. So it's hard to vet that kind of aid. And if you have unrestricted air traffic flying around, like that's just a recipe for disaster,
Can get crowded.
Busy. Well, I mean, if you got helicopters flying around, they're not communicating with the people that are on the ground, and those helicopters come in, and then all of a sudden you have some sort of air conflict that nobody's aware of, and then you have a crash, and it's like, oh, now not only do we have the imminent disaster that we need to deal with, now we have a new disaster we have to deal with because now the forest is burning because these two helicopters collided in midair, and et cetera, et cetera. So I don't know. Chances are good. If I was a betting man, I would say the FEMA response is probably a botched fucking shit show. But it'll eventually work itself out.
I mean, you think about the way the media, if it bleeds, it leads, and they focus on disaster. They love it.
Yeah, unless it's going to harm the Biden-Harris campaign.
So, I mean, I think back...
Walls campaign.
Exactly. Hurricane Katrina and other things going on. It's just like, it's a marketing opportunity to say, we're government, we're here to help. And this one's kind of like, I'm only getting information from X and people on the ground and a little bit from I guess Kamala's on the phone and Biden was in a studio of some kind that looked like the White House. I mean, what's going on here?
So you mean the Biden...
the bunker?
It's a replacement. It's the CIA, the rubber mask.
The rubber mask robot who's half a foot taller. I can still walk.
Beep, boop, beep.
I can... Yeah.
I can now say things coherently. Whatever is fed into my mainframe. Beep boop. Did you see Kamala's little teleprompter gaffe?
On Oprah?
No, it was like
Another one?
oh, she was doing some speech somewhere. I don't know. It just was floating around Twitter recently, but the teleprompter froze at like 32 days, and so she was just like, eh.
And then you're all out of ideas here.
She had nothing to fucking say. It was really.
I don't know what I don't know what. Where am I? What am I saying?
Yeah, like
the teleprompter stopped and my job's done.
Yeah, like literally. I mean, it was really bizarre to watch. Like teleprompter freezes, and she's got not a fucking thing to say. She's just sitting there buying time. It's like, how do you not like?
Do you know what you're saying here? Why are you here?
Sit there and riff for like.
Oh, that's all he does.
4 hours.
That's all he does.
He can't wait for the teleprompter to die because he's just like, I don't know, just fucking say.
He'll have a teleprompter and it'll just stop while he goes on some riff for a while, and the people are waiting for him. Like, are we back on script yet?
Are we on message now? Can we get back to the message, please? Okay, here we go. There we go.
Okay, roll again.
All right. But
which I love. I mean, at least he's a thinking human, I suppose.
Well, now they're starting to challenge his age. I'm like, that's fucking ripe. You guys are now coming out going, well, he's going to be the oldest president ever. It's like, we just had a fucking complete potato. The guy could barely, I mean, he's literally got pudding running down his chin. And now you're questioning this guy. And at least out playing golf. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's not easy.
And if you have a concern about the age of your president, there's the thought that goes through your mind next is, well, who would replace him? And you look at the VP.
Yeah. Seems like a pretty smart guy.
The VP debate, I was almost going to be like, I'm not going to watch it. I don't need that bullshit in my brain. But I watched it.
Did you?
Yeah. My wife and I was just like, I'm morbidly interested. I don't know either of these people that well. It's totally superficial, but I'm curious how the general public is going to wonder, like, can I have a beer with them?
Right.
And so I watched it. My God, I tell you. So I think Walz is a smart guy. I don't disrespect him. I mean, I don't agree with communism, but I respect him as a thinker. On camera, though, it's kind of like sweaty Nixon and scared eyes and like,
He's not a camera fan.
It's like, no, oh God, let me look at my notes again. He looked a little desperate. Who's the other guy? Vance.
J.D. Vance.
Yeah, that's how much I pay attention.
I thought you were a Trumplicant, man. What's going on here? I did not know his running mate.
To the extent I pay attention to politics, yes, it's J.D. Vance is the mascot's sidekick.
Seems like a bright guy.
He is brilliant as a presenter, showman, personality. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Just you like that guy. Women are attracted to him.
Are they?
Men, I would say for a woman who's on the pill for her life, she may feel.
Now Fitz gets to be the asshole this week.
Let me be the sexist asshole for a moment. Take a break for a moment. Now, this is not a new idea. I've heard this elsewhere. I'm just repeating things. I'm an NPC, so I repeat stuff. For women who are on the pill, you probably the left is framing masculinity as being the Tim Waltz beta man is the new masculinity. Right. That's what we like in a man, as a beta. Vance is cool alpha. And so for a woman who's been on the pill for a long, long time, you're probably looking for that kind of like beta agreeable man that like is on par but lesser.
Right.
For women who aren't on the pill, so typically I think most white women are Trump deranged and probably pro whatever communism, and for women who maybe say, I'm not speaking for individuals. I'm just saying broadly. I'm going to cast a net on people psyches as human animals. Women of a certain age, or maybe you're not on drugs, you kind of like the bad boy or the tough, strong.
There's actually a surprising amount of data that supports that thesis.
I think down in there, women like that cool, strong alpha man.
Well, you want to know something fun? Dr. Robert Sapolsky, who wrote Behave, the Biology of Humans at Their Best and Worst, points to testosterone, because people say that's like the aggression hormone. He said it's actually not. What testosterone does is boosts the dominant social characteristic. And he said our dominant social characteristic is violence. He said we disproportionately mate with people that are good at violence. We actually reify and uphold and love violence as long as it's the right kind of violence. So to your thesis, yeah, 100%. People legitimately. There's actually a great episode of Louis, before Louis got, harangued for jerking off in front of his assistant. Fucking weirdo. But
Louis C.K.?
Yeah, Louis C.K. But the show was called Louis. And Louis is on a date, and he was sitting there at the table, and there's these group of like high school kids down at the other end of the cafe. They're being loud and boisterous, and Louis says, "Hey, would you mind knocking it off? Keep it down over there. We're trying to have a conversation." And these kids walk up and just go, "How'd you like me to beat your fucking ass? You see these knuckles? That's because I just beat the shit out of somebody." And Louis was just like, "Oh,
okay,"
sorry. Like just totally bitched out, right? And so he went back to try and have the date, and the chick just looked at him like that was the most unattractive thing I've ever seen in my life.
The character he plays in that is a beta guy.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Just kind of like, oh, okay,
Yeah, like
trying to get along here.
Yeah, like TV dad, but like a very realistic version of the TV dad, I guess. Just total beta cut, whatever you want to call it. But
so some level, like older women or maybe settled women are attracted to the beta man who's just stable and will cuddle, and younger women, I think, are attracted to the strong man, and down in there innately, I think that's pervasive. But when you watch a debate, and you can say, well, who would I want to have a beer with? I think at a deeper level, we're kind of looking at, is this man attractive? Is he a breeder? So Waltz is talking about how he had to, they went through IVF or whatever to have a kid, and he couldn't pump it out. And Vance is like, I've got a lot of kids, and he's quite the fertile man, and he breaks the fourth wall where during the debate he's just chill as a cool cat and is totally respectful too. I really like that. It was the kind of debate that I want to see in a debate, right, where the moderators are also almost kind of interfering and shutting down on, hey, no, we can talk here, and we're cool and we're respectful. We disagree. Okay, yeah, we disagree on that, but we also align on things too. I was kind of refreshed by that.
Yeah.
Vance would he just had this cool look, and every once in a while he'd break the fourth wall. He's probably looking at the timer on how many seconds Waltz has, right, but he'd just kind of look over at the audience, right, and it was like breaking the fourth wall. Like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
But it was like cool. It was cool.
I couldn't watch the debate myself. I saw some clips. Like, obviously they're pulling clips of Waltz looking like a dickhead. I didn't see any Vance clips.
Vance is cool.
That's what I heard. I mean, like I said, I'm sort of checked out of that whole process right now.
But if you were worried about Trump's age,
yeah,
you'd say, the VP is quite presidential.
Yeah.
Vance, people saw Vance as like, that could be a president.
Yeah.
I didn't know the guy, but from this superficial little thing,
yeah,
I think that guy's on it.
Yeah. Probably.
So
who knows where? I mean, by the time they sit in the chair, I think the whole world changes for them. So
they're informed that your job is not what you thought it was.
Well, they just walk in and go, "Oh, this is what the world really looks like." Yep. Oh, that's a fucking mess. Well, okay, let's start making some shitty decisions. Boop. That's kind of how it goes.
I want to get to the bottom of this. Tell me all there is about this. You haven't been read into that.
Yeah.
Really?
I think they get the info, but my personal take is, by the time you see the info, you go, oh, ew, that's bad. Yeah.
Oh, it's more complicated than what I came from.
Yeah. I had some pretty strong ideas about what's going on here. Now that I see the reality, I go, oh, that's a fucking mess. Oh, that's a can of worms. It's just constant can of worms. And you have the whole delegation problem at that level. Like, who do you delegate this shit to? Because you can't run around doing it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so the people you delegate to, you have to trust. And trust in politics is, about as robust as I don't have a good analogy for robust, but it's not. It's just a fucking mess. So, you know, there are no great, easy political solutions to anything. So people looking for it, I think, are barking up the wrong tree. That's why the Great Alignment is so amazing, because Bitcoin fucking fixes it, man.
Regardless of the president and the deep state and everything else, they can't
get around changing the rules, making a fundamental property right. You can't usurp that.
Mm-hmm.
You can still have your little machinations. You can still do all your nonsense. You can still fart around the edges. But you know what? The game's different. The game is different today, right now. It's the only thing that gives me hope for the future. Bitcoin changes this.
Matthew Cratter with Bitcoin University.
Fucking awesome guy.
Oh my gosh! Day by day, he's hitting it. So
he's so good.
A month or two ago,
if he had written my book would be a lot better.
Well, he covers a wide gamut of topics, but I'm surprised because he's able to deep dive into technology and ideas around it that are like, man, he's got time to know stuff. He made a funny endorsement. I mean, it was kind of tongue in cheek, but he says his channel, which is him, endorsed Harris as a month or two ago. He's like, I officially endorsed Kamala Harris because, hey, if you're driving at a brick wall, he's basically like this. So he's of the mind that it kind of needs to collapse.
He's an accelerationist.
We need to hit. Yeah, he's an accelerationist. We need to hit this brick wall. It needs to collapse. The sooner the better, so that we can get real here. And he's like, hey, if we're driving towards a brick wall at 60 miles an hour, why not hit the gas, hit 100 miles an hour, slam into it, and let's just break this thing. Now he's joking, but
sure he is.
Now,
the accelerations want to blow shit up. I mean,
well,
they can't wait to fuck themselves over.
He had a podcast a few days ago where he's like, no, really, not imperfect as it is, Trump is the one who is promoting at least more pro-Bitcoin stuff, and
closer to sanity.
It's closer to sanity if they understand it.
Which is a bizarre thing to say out loud, that Trump is the candidate of sanity this time around. It's just like, wow, what a fucking weird world I live in.
Right, and maybe that's that you stop trying to control and tell us what to do, and even if you don't know what's going on, you let it go and let it be, and it will happen.
I mean, if we got like the Elon Musk like government fucking reduction
efficiency thing,
oh my god, that would be so hilarious.
Walk in there and walk into Congress with a kitchen sink and be like,
yeah,
boom,
you guys are all hammer fucked, get the fuck out. Yeah, it would be hilarious. I mean, the beauty of it is like literally nothing would happen. You know, they have those government shutdowns all the time. Do you know what happens during government shutdown? Like fucking nothing. Like for 95% of the people in the world, they just kind of go, you're like,
we can't pay all the government workers in the world, and
I mean, they could gut 80% of the fucking federal budget just by gutting 80% of those fucking agencies. Like the Department of Education, like zero value to the fucking world.
Trump was like, we're going to get rid of that and give it to the states.
Yeah, they've been saying that for fucking 70 years. Since it was invented, they've been saying it.
Well, this time we're going to do it.
This time we're going to do it.
I think if president gets in and they hit the deep state and they realize the deep state can get
nasty,
thrown in front of Congress and yelled at and defunded and all that stuff, and they're like, we don't need any of you, and we're going to keep doing what we do. And congressmen and the president and the people can all be like, and I don't see them ever changing.
Well, there's a really fun, I remember this from law school, I can't remember the president. The president got into a fight with the Supreme Court, and this was one of the early decisions where the Supreme Court started being a little more deferential because they got a little high on their horse and said, hey, we're the Supreme Court, we're the final say on things, and the president said, I'm going to come down and fucking shut you guys down. I would remind you, I have an army. You guys have a bunch of books and pens, so go fuck yourself, fix this right now. And they went, oh, yeah, maybe we'll go that way instead. So at the end of all these lines of authority is coercive force, and the person in the world that wields the most or has the most access to the most coercive force on the planet is the President of the United States of America. There is no other human being in the world that has as much access and as much kinetic force at their disposal as the President of the United States. They are severely hamstrung in how they can exercise that use of force, and they still wield it. So if you got in there and you were really hell-bent on just creating some fucking chaos and getting shit done, you could literally order. I mean, you'd be violating posse comitatus and all kinds of fucking constitutional protections and things like that. But that didn't stop people in the past, and doesn't necessarily have to stop people this time around. So you got the deep state operatives going, da-da-da-da-da, we're not doing this, go fuck yourselves. They might just find themselves surrounded by a military force and going, you guys need to open fucking doors, get the fuck out, get your laptops, get the fuck out of here, or we're going to start blowing shit up. And they're all bean counters at the end of the day. Like, if you go see the deep state operatives, these are like beady-eyed little fucking goons that are just goons. I mean,
You get into a situation where maybe it's like, what generals are on my side versus the generals that are totally co-opted? Like, do I just have a sheer, you're talking about just sheer force of power. So do I have enough generals and their folks, conscripts, to show up in force against the deep state general who was like, nope, this skiff is off limits?
Right.
I don't know. That's different.
Well, I tell you, I mean, if you show up, if you are the president, you show up and knock on the door and say, let me in this fucking building, and you got all your little entourage around you and your armored vehicles and all your fucking stuff, having those guys try and resist that, good luck with that. So, I mean, then at that point, it becomes pretty obvious who's in fucking control, right? Like, they can wield that control, like some congressman comes knocking and they got to have big discussions about how authority flows and all this kind of stuff. But if you're the it's just like when Elon walked into Twitter, right? There was no, like, well, we're not, like, people tried.
People are like, no, we know our job.
You're gone.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and the same thing can happen with the president, but it requires a lot of hands-on. It requires a lot of, constitutional muckery. I mean, it's all doable and it's all messy. So, but certainly within the realm of possibility.
And there's a lot of people, I think, they're scared of that. They're like, oh my God, to show that kind of a force is antithetical to the American experiment or to democracy or to why we do everything. Everything has to be balanced and tactful and diplomatic.
Well, tell it to Abraham Lincoln.
And then, it's like, we're beyond that. We're like, heads need to roll. Or, I don't know.
Well, these people, I mean, I think I wrote about it in the book. Like, there is no one in control of this stuff. Like, this is just a thing that is going. And the incentives are aligned as such that it incentivizes more of this shit continually. And until that incentive structure gets changed, then this is kind of what we get. But that doesn't mean you can not disincentivize things through coercion. So it gets ugly. It's certainly divisive. But the thing is, I would argue that most people that are still in the liberal camp that are flying fucking Harris stickers and shit like that are economically isolated from the impacts of the decisions that are made by those, like the Harris-Biden thing right now.
To fly a Ukraine flag and be like, these poor people, and we need to save whatever that is. And it's like, how does that register with your life? Like, you're probably fine.
Yeah, they don't feel the impacts of inflation. I mean, these are all people, like, if you think about most of the liberal strongholds are in major cities and on the coasts. And those are all places where people that vote that way have jobs still, right? And so they historically have kowtowed to, like, social justice type issues, to attract minorities and things like that, under the guise of, like, we're pro-labor, pro-this, pro-that. But what they've turned into is the neocon fucking war party. They're 100% corporate captured, but they still have those narratives that people that are insulated from economic decisions can still get into. Like, if you say, hey, we need to shore up the borders, we need to get these illegal immigrants out of here. Well, that starts, it's a very easy target for some Lexist liberal to sit there and go, oh my God, they hate all brown people. This is so terrible. But the Lexist liberal doesn't have to deal with brown people. except when they're cleaning their house, and then they're really bitchy to those people anyway. But if they had a bunch of those kids like moving into their hotel
Hey,
on the street,
that big apartment building,
yeah, that's all
isn't
like,
close to you. But if we're building a big apartment building, we're loading it up with call it Haitians who are integrating at the best level they can, and it's not compatible,
right?
In a way.
Well, I guarantee you, if you started trucking like 25,000 Haitian immigrants or Moroccan immigrants or whatever right into the middle of like Kirkland, Washington, I guarantee you all of a sudden there's a bunch of liberal fucking Lexus liberals that are going to be like, well, wait a minute.
No, like this.
This is supposed to go to the poor people neighborhoods, not my neighborhood.
Yeah,
right?
there's better places for there's better resources in other places for that.
They will 100% get super fucking NIMBY super fucking fast.
Do you remember, maybe it's been 2-3 years.
NIMBY is not in my backyard for those who are familiar with that.
NIMBY. When DeSantis was busing people up to Rhode Island or Long Island or somewhere, do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
And all these people were like, oh, we love you so much, and here's some blankets and food, and back on the bus, okay, bye-bye now.
Yeah.
We love you, bye-bye.
Yeah,
bye-bye.
Yeah.
We love you, but bye-bye now.
Yeah, time to go.
It's like, yes, exactly.
I mean, the immigration thing, that's also misaligned incentives. Like, if you pay people to immigrate to your country, then of course they're going to immigrate to your country. Like, that's a fucking no-brainer, but,
There was and I don't know the numbers behind this, but there was a theory. I think Elon put it up somewhere where the swing states were where people were being shipped off to en masse, and then like I don't know what is it, like 9 million untrackable, unregistered, registered voters who can vote, and it's sort of unauditable, and it's just this massive numbers of theoretically voters that that can't be verified. And I don't know.
Well, now they're getting rid of like voter ID requirements and all that kind of stuff. It becomes hugely problematic, and with mail-in voting, and and especially if the thing is, most of these migrants tend to be more conservative in their values. Like, they are certainly not people that are like flying pride flags and stuff like that. But if that's the source of their free handouts, they're 100% going to support the source of the free handouts, right? Regardless of whatever social issues that are being parroted around.
Here's just a thing from
old Elon.
New law bans California from requiring voters to show ID at the polls. California is one of 14 states that do not require voter ID for elections.
This is posted by Doge Designer.
Now, here's a Newsweek headline.
Shitcoiner.
Newsweek, I think, totally corrupt establishment. Newsweek, Gavin Newsom bans California from requiring ID to vote.
Yeah. But they're going to present that as a positive thing.
It's a barrier to voting. I mean, a fundamental right to vote.
Well, that's what I was getting at. Is like it turns into this thing. It's a super easy narrative to say they hate brown people.
Mm-hmm.
This is all that Nazi shit.
Equity.
They go, well, the only reason they don't like immigration is because they just don't like foreigners. But that has echoes throughout history of like all sorts of horrible things that have happened to migrants and people that look different than the native population and all that kind of stuff. So it's really easy to conflate those two things and say they support this because of racist things, right? And like I said, right up until the people that are making those allegations have to deal with the problem themselves. But they're insulated from the effects of the decisions that are made because they want those people to be taken care of and dealt with and shiny, happy people, kumbaya, as long as it's not in their backyard, as long as they're not going to be, beating up their kids at school, as long as they're, going to that poor part of town where the deplorables live. That's fine. They can deal with it. We'll just throw some money at it and they'll be fine. But to say that, you hate them is so wrong. And so they can have this...
It's elitist.
Right. Well, they have this moral justification for what they're doing to other people, but they don't have to deal with what they're doing to other people.
Yeah.
Like I said, you want to fix that whole little democratic idea of things. Go start putting immigrant shelters in Beverly Hills. Go put immigrant shelters in West LA. Go put immigrant shelters in like the nice parts of San Francisco. Go put immigrant shelters in Kirkland, Washington, and all these little like bubbles of economic activity where people are insulated from inflation, insulated from the effects of bad decision making. Put it like in the Loop in Chicago. Go here's all your immigrants here.
Where the income, the money, the resources are the best available to just send to them.
Yeah. So if you put those migrants into those areas, I guarantee you within a month, you're going to have angry Lexus liberals standing at the city council going, I just don't understand why we can't put them where the poor people are, because these people are poor and that's where they belong. Like, why do they have to be in my neighborhood? And they are so uncritical of their own inability to see the impacts of what unfettered immigration access does to a nation. So
I went through this myself at work. It's been 8 years, but we were beginning the creation of some transitional housing to help people in need, and there was money for it. And just trying to find a house where legitimately good vetted people that qualified for it could live and begin their lives again, who are ready and motivated to do it. Picked by me. And if they weren't working out, they're out. And also, if they're not doing well, they don't want to be there. They're gone.
right.
Trying to find a house in a neighborhood, it was like, well, all the reasons people had about, well, yes, we want to help these people. There should be a house for them.
Just not here.
Just, isn't there an orchard somewhere in the hills where you could have a house far away and they could all be happy out in a little funny farm out there?
Right.
It's like,
No.
they
need to be in your neighborhood.
They need to be in a community where, yes, there's a church right there. There are schools around. They see people around and they're in a community and they're like, I know how to live a life now and I want to live a life. And it's in a neighborhood, let alone the fact that you don't know who is in your neighborhood. I'd be talking to neighbors and like, yes, this particular house is going in here. And you, honestly, you don't know who is in your neighborhood. Because I supervise them.
Right.
And you don't know and you don't want to know.
Right.
We're just talking about the best of the best that we can lift up are going to all be right here in a program.
Yeah.
It was like, yeah, I know, but maybe a couple blocks down.
Right.
Well, then I'm having the same conversation with those people. It's like, no. These are in our community. They're people in our community. They're part of our community. It's just that there were people that were like, well, but not close to me.
Right. Because they're all NIMBY.
I'm all for it. Just,
Right.
It's like, well.
And they have the political capital to make sure that they don't have to pay for the consequences of their decisions, right? They have the political capital to make sure those people don't move in.
I got calls from city councilors, the mayor, county commissioners. Hey, what's going on with this? And I'd explain it. Now, ultimately, we were successful in making it work, and it was huge success. Worked out great. And after, I'd call it a year, all the kind of concerns, like nothing happened, and they went away, and it was fine. But yes, I got calls directly where it could have just been shut out for no reason other than, hey, I'm just saying no.
Right. Like, we're done with
okay.
this.
So
my constituents are mad. But I mean, they've historically done this to poor people in this country throughout the history of this country. There's a great big, I can't remember the woman's name. She was an urban architect in New York City. But they would literally, like, they say, hey, we need to build a freeway here. And then all these guys, these rich guys that have like golf courses and shit go, oh, that's going to screw up my golf course. They go, oh, okay, well, let's just route it through here. And I go, well, that's going to blow up like 30 apartment buildings and people who've lived there for 50, 60 years. Oh, fuck them. We can't screw up my golf course. So they like literally trace these highways around like golf courses.
Put it along Martin Luther King.
And then, but I kind of joke around here, like in Los Angeles, all their at-grade railroad crossings are in the poor parts of town. Like, there are no at-grade crossings in Beverly Hills. There's no at-grade crossings anywhere. Like, it's all elevated, right? If some sort of rail traffic needs to come through a nice part of town, it's elevated. If it's through some shitty part of town where, like, the brown folks live, all at-grade, they don't give a shit. That's where all the train accidents happen. That's where all the train strikes happen. So they keep that kind of stuff where the poor people are. Like, everybody, and it's both sides that do this. The other problem we have with immigration is both sides are pro illegal immigration. Like, the Republicans will say, oh, we got a border crisis, yada, yada, yada. But that's like the sort of libertarian wing of the party. The big money donors to the Republican Party are all for all sorts of illegal immigration.
Cheaper labor. Because
they get super cheap labor. That's how they run their meatpacking plants and their fucking farms and all that kind of shit. And they just skirt, labor laws and all kinds of stuff. But there's even a thing, Vice, for what good they are. I think they're out of business now. But Vice did a story down in Alabama, this watermelon farmer. And Alabama passed a really strict immigration law. They said, hey, if we catch you without papers, we're going to lock you up, throw you in prison, this, that, and the other thing. So all the immigrants went, okay, fuck off, we're out of here. And they all bailed. And then they went down, and this Vice reporter is like this scrawny little beta fucking douchebag, little thick rimmed glasses guy, goes, oh, okay, well, let me go see what it's like to work on a watermelon farm. And but they're talking to the farmer, and the guy goes, yeah, I put out jobs for people around here. They show up, they work for about 10 minutes and realize how hard it is.
This is hard.
And then they bail, right? Like,
I got blisters.
and I challenge anybody to go and harvest fucking watermelons. But if you watch some of these field laborers, I mean, A, it's a skilled occupation. Like, people think, oh, you're just picking fruit, so what? But it's not as easy as you think. There's a lot of orchards around here, and there's a lot of people around here that work those in high school and stuff like that.
You got to read the fruit and know what's, you know, you're not just.
And like if you're cutting kale or something like that, like you can't just like freaking yank on the leaf. I mean, there's a certain way you've got to cut it, and you have to be super, super productive. And so a lot of these migrant laborers are not only super skilled at it, but they have this like endurance and ability to withstand. I mean, it's hard.
There's a mentality about that kind of work where after an hour of doing this thing, you're like,
yeah.
Well, are we done yet? It's
Yeah.
like, no. You do this all day, every day.
Yeah, this is you got 9 more hours of this fucktard, and no, you don't get to have like 15-minute breaks, and no, you don't get to do this, and no, you don't get to do that. And so they have a real serious challenge of finding labor in the United States of America that's willing to do that kind of labor. Like,
Sure.
and so the watermelon farmer was like, I wish they'd just let the illegals back in because I can't get anybody to work my goddamn watermelon farm.
Mm-hmm.
But even the little Vice guy, like, there were kids like 10 years old that were working that field that were like out producing this guy by, I mean, they were just
going.
just watermelon after watermelon. He's just like, oh my God, I can just barely get it up on the truck. And he was out there for probably half an hour, and he was just wrecked. So, yeah. But, I mean, you know, that's, Americans in general have been isolated from the consequences of their bad decisions for since we went off the gold standard. Like, there's no concrete tie to reality based on the lifestyle that we get to live.
Yeah. Well, the orchards around here, I mean, the migrant workers are a reason it works.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, I don't judge that. If there's a mechanism where, okay, yes, there's a large number of people that we need to do certain kinds of work, and they want that kind of work, and if it's, you know, rewarded respectfully and provided for and not treated as slavery, if it's well regulated, I think there's a mechanisms to make that kind of work occur.
Oh, sure.
And
if you're willing to pay 5 times as much for your fruit and 5 times as much for your vegetables, yeah, 100%. No problem.
Yeah, we have benefited without being aware of it. Of like this stuff just happens. It costs us much just naturally.
Yeah, like I'll tell you what, move all manufacturing and all food production domestically with only domestic labor. Like, how much do you think it would? Like, how much would you need to be paid to do hard labor in a field for 10 hours a day? Like, just sit back and think about that. And then while you're thinking about it, going, well, I could do that, blah, 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 and whatever fucking objection you might have to it, go out in the field, go dig a hole. Tell me how you feel after about half an hour. Just dig a fucking hole. You're going to be done. Most of you, done. Like 2 seconds flat.
And people I've met who do that work where they work in one area for, you know, a few weeks to a month. It's done and harvested. Okay, next job is next town over or somewhere. Right. You're moving around.
Yeah.
You got to be flexible in your lifestyle. You can't just, oh, now my commute's longer. It's like you're working where the work is, wherever that is.
Right.
Yeah.
So what would you need to do that work? $50 an hour, $30 an hour, $20 an hour? I don't know. You're certainly not going to do it as piecework. Zero chance. I mean, we already have examples, like the example I gave you, the watermelon farmer. Like, I guarantee you he can attract labor if he says, hey, watermelon picking, $35 an hour. Yeah, he'll get people that are super productive show up. They'll be more than willing to do that work for $35 an hour, but your watermelons aren't going to be $3 a pound anymore. They're going to be $20 a pound. So, but the same thing, like, how much do you think it would cost an American worker to build an iPhone? Good luck with that. Like, how much is that iPhone? $5,000? Fuck, what? Why is it $5,000? Well, because we have labor laws and we have all this stuff in place here that protects workers and make sure they're paid fair and yada, yada, blah, 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 blah. And to even attract workers here to do that job requires you pay far more than anybody's willing to pay. So people want the benefits of being able to export their inflation. People want the benefits of being able to exploit labor, and they don't want to deal with the consequences of those decisions. They go, hey, bring it all back to America. Well, everything goes up in price. So your inflation is going to go from, 15% year over year, like it's been since 2020, to like 500% year over year. Like,
it makes me think of a graph that I've seen before, and I was going to bring this up separately for other reasons, but you'll see like the amount of productivity that workforce has created over the decades, like just sheer productivity, efficiency, and output, compared to median pay. And how median pay tries to just sort of keep up with inflation, like what we think of as inflation back in the day. Headline inflation is like 2-3% versus what it probably really is. Whereas worker productivity, with technology and processes and different things, output generally person to person per capita is really quite high.
Well, it depends on how you measure it too, right? Because like, if you take into account that, we can source parts from China, and then we can source other components from Mexico, and we can source other components from here, and the shipping cost is this, and the labor cost in Mexico and China and Vietnam and Philippines is 1/10 of what it is in the United States. So the workers here that are just pushing buttons and going, send email, send us more gears, send us more widgets. You go, hey, how much productivity do they have? Well, on paper, those guys are super productive, but we didn't have to pay for any of the stuff that required that productivity.
I can see that.
So what you end up with is this very skewed version of the world where, our productivity has gone way up, but a lot of it's due to automation internally, but a lot of it's due to outsourcing jobs. And the weird thing about it is if you look at like the net decrease in those type of manufacturing jobs here in the United States, and then you take it back to like how many of those jobs went overseas, like it's not 100%. It's not one for one. Like, hey, we lost a job in America and went down to South America. It's like, probably 7 out of 10 jobs went south. The other 3 out of 10 went to automation, right? So the more they can automate stuff here locally, then those production costs will come down. But then you've got unions like our dock workers who are going, well, we need to keep those jobs. These are good American jobs, and blah, 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 blah. So you end up in this stalemate where a handful of people get to keep highly lucrative jobs while everything else gets outsourced. So that's how you end up with this like government job growth, because it's all make work. It's all bullshit jobs. All the real work is happening in Mexico and Philippines and Vietnam and China and Korea and everywhere else where there are actually human beings that are putting shit together and building things and manufacturing things. But even all those jobs don't represent all the jobs we lost, because even those places are becoming more and more automated. I mean, sooner or later we're going to run into a position where there are no real jobs for people to do. And our economy is predicated on people having jobs so they can waste money on things that are wasteful. You had a thought on that.
I had a thought on that. So, and earlier this week, in the little glimpses of sanity I could maintain between my 80% IQ fiat salt mining, I had one of these thoughts where, okay, say there was no Bitcoin, and what I see happening is a growing like bottom class where there's a welfare state happening, there's money printed for stuff, and we need to help people, so there's more and more resources, help, things for people. Homelessness, houselessness becoming like a lifestyle, and we see it growing, and that people are slipping into that, and there's a broadening like bottom class occurring here. And then the middle class, even as they see numbers get larger, or my income's up, or maybe I can bounce houses, or things still sort of seem okay. There's obviously this squeeze on the middle class where some are falling into the bottom class, and also things about whether it's just the incentives are being short-circuited between, call it regulation or cultural mindset or whatever it is. It's harder and harder to have an innovative, motivated mindset at times. It's kind of like, no, you do your job, you're paid so much, you can do things within this lifespan to better yourself, but it's being diluted. So people are slipping into the bottom class, or they're an upper bottom class where they feel like things are okay, but they have to settle for cheaper and cheaper fiat crap that's manufactured cheaply. And so you can still kind of have the same things, or it's exported, like you mentioned, stuff. But it's not the same American dream. It's like you're maintaining if you can, and it kind of feels the same. And then the upper class, obviously, they don't save and hold in cash, and they've got their investments or whatever, real estate, things they do. If you didn't have Bitcoin, you're still kind of maneuvering your money around. But over time, when I look out, like, where is this going over time?
Right.
I feel like innovation, motivation, private sector stuff is being pushed down and hammered and diluted, and it's just kind of like, stop trying so hard, just settle for what you have.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, you're ruining the planet, your productivity is bad, having wealth is bad, we judge you for doing well. Just settle as a pleb. And it affects us, like our mindsets, our culture, our incentives. Everybody just get along, plug away. And so,
and have fun staying poor.
Being poor is not that bad. Actually, it's righteous. You know, austerity fascism is quality.
Yeah.
And so we're settling for less. And so I just saw this push down where you have this elitist oligarchy, and then a wide, flat bottom and upper bottom set of classes. Right. Someone's got to do the work, but those jobs are also just a hamster wheel, and you're not generationally making much progress.
No.
Or any. And
right.
so
no.
Now Bitcoin is that release valve on that for individuals. I'm talking.
Mm-hmm.
Systems aside, systems are going to realign a lot. For individuals, there's also this opportunity to have this little escape valve, or potentially you really realign yourself and you emancipate yourself from all of that, even as that transition is hard. Like, I mean, we're in a position where, yeah, I got to have my fiat job. I got to hustle in ways where I can with the Bitcoin side hustle. And so, and that could be what is the fix for us personally, systemically also the alignment occurring. But without Bitcoin, it's like that book, The Mandibles. I've mentioned it before. Odell always brings it up. But The Mandibles was a view on this playing out. It's like an Atlas Shrugged situation where generation by generation, it's actually looking at a family with generations that are well off, that get winnowed out, diluted out, crushed out, and then settle for homelessness, practically.
Yeah.
And so The Mandibles is a view of the steady managed collapse, erosion of culture and everything about it. Just the mindset of, if you read Atlas Shrugged, where it's like, there's all these reasons and whys where no. It has to be complete central control and dictated, and individuals producing for themselves and benefiting from that is unfair.
Right.
And to be judged. Elon, to me, strikes me as like a John Galt in our modern era, in a way. I mean, superficially, but he is this guy who everything from, okay, judge it as you will, but Mars and SpaceX and Tesla and everything else he's pushing and innovating about, he represents this spirit that is like, push, pro-human, think big, go for it, independent, freedom, unregulated, less regulated, like, let's do it. Yeah. And he's being pressured or attacked or regulated in all kinds of ways. And what I see in it is like John Galt in Atlas Shrugged, before he disappeared and made Gulch and all that, Galt's Gulch, that we have a kind of John Galt figure who is grappling with the machinations of a system that is like, no, all that is like weird.
Well, Elon Musk only exists in a fiat world.
And he is fiat, yes.
Like he is is a fiat creation.
We're still waiting for Elon to go in on Bitcoin.
Well, he's a Doge
overtly.
guy, so he's a shitcoin
I know.
already. But I mean, I don't know how far that guy gets without fiat. But that's true of most billionaires. Like most of these people, that's the climb up the greasy pole of the fiat ladder. And for the centimillionaires and above, like that's all fiat. Like you don't. If this were truly a world that was based on productivity, then none of those people exist because Elon gets to outsource all his fucking labor, or not all of it. I mean, they manufacture shit.
He's proud of having built in America stuff, you know. But then again, he'll acknowledge, we got to get our chips from Taiwan and
Right. I mean, but that's the thing is like if you had to source everything in America, like all the steel, all the aluminum, all that shit, like
the lithium.
Yeah, the lithium, and like just go see what those mines look like. I mean, that's not cobalt is another one, big one. Yeah, like
there's big lithium here in America, but then if you really capitalize on that, the costs are not the same.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It goes up, exponentially to source that locally. So I don't know what the world looks like without fiat. I mean, no one can imagine it right now because it's been fiat for 100 years. And America was on a nice trajectory. Oil and fiat kind of came up together, and you put those two together and put America at the center of it, and this is what the world looks like. So
yeah, and one level to it that Elon will get to government efficiency and the spending, like the amount of spending. He'll say all this is just the wasted spending. There's a layer on top of that is just purely the money.
Oh yeah.
The money.
Right.
The money printing.
Yeah, and you can't. I mean, the problem with the political incentives are you can't. Like, here's the thing: is people are complaining about FEMA, right? But in like a truly libertarian world, FEMA doesn't exist, right? So there's no one for them to bitch at. And if there are people struggling, it overwhelms local resources, then you're reliant on charity. And if no one feels charitable, then it's a great big go fuck yourself. Oh, all your houses got blown away by a hurricane? Well, fuck yourself. That's your problem. And people don't like that. So they look to leaders to absolve them from that chaos and to solve that chaos for them. And so if you are incapable of solving that chaos, you don't get to have your cushy little politics job, right? So in a fiat world, it's super easy to go, oh, I'll just print it up and fix it. Mm-hmm. And that's what they do. And once you've changed that rule so it makes it okay for you to do that, then that's always the path you're going to take. It's the path of least resistance. It's rational in that world. So,
and the great realignment being not decapitate the state, not, well, good luck on your own out there, Eastern Tennessee and Western Carolinas. It's
a little bit of both.
It's both. It's a blend.
Ideally, I mean that's the thing is there are necessary institutions, and we, like it's the same problem as like when you remember the big tort reform movement about 10 years ago. Tort reform it was everywhere.
I don't remember what the
the way it gets paraded, like the McDonald's lady, the coffee burn McDonald's lady, she was like the sort of poster child for tort reform, right? Mm-hmm. Why did we pay this idiot $2 million because she spilled coffee on herself? And the problem with that whole conversation is it's really, really, really hard to say who pays for an injury, right? And it is completely unfair to say, hey, I made a lawnmower where 1 in 10 lawnmowers, the blades will fly off and cut your foot off. That's your problem, right? So it makes perfect sense to say you're not allowed to capitalize on things that harm people. Because otherwise, the incentive would be to just make any willy-nilly fucking dangerous product. As long as you can make some money and you don't have to pay for the injuries it causes, then great. But then when you stretch that to the other side, you go, well, where is the end of that line? Because they have things like the courts have ruled that there was a woman who was standing on a rolling chair on a balcony and trying to do something, and the rolling chair came out from under her and she fell off the balcony. And they said, well, that was a foreseeable harm. They should have warned against that. There's a reason why your coffee maker says do not put in water. And now it says do not immerse in water because there are people that are just so fucking dumb that go, oh, don't put any water in the coffee maker. Okay, turn it on. The thing catches fire. Fucking the glass breaks, shatters, cuts their hand, whatever. But what people were doing before that was they would take the coffee machine, stick it in the fucking sink while it's plugged in, and start trying to wash it. And they'd zap themselves. So
Personal responsibility, folks, too.
well, there's the personal responsibility angle, 100%. And if that's the problem, is that it's like a huge gray area. Like, well,
You're buying a contraption. It's supposed to just work.
all right.
So you
have a reasonable expectation it's going to work.
Yeah.
And then when it doesn't and it hurts you, who should pay for that? Well, the person that made the fucking faulty thing. But then where do you draw the line at faulty?
Like you have a can of peanuts, you're allergic to peanuts, and without that label that says warning contains peanuts, my God, I could have just eaten peanuts. I have an allergy.
Maybe.
You killed me because I ate peanuts. You didn't warn me this had peanuts in it.
Well, that's one extreme. But the other extreme is like people that, build things that are dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you remember the little knee exercise thing that would whack people in the balls?
I never heard of that.
Well, there's like a little butterfly thing, I think. Oh, we're on low battery. Little butterfly thing would like, people would do little thigh master. I think it was a thigh master, yeah. But the thing is, the way it was designed,
Makes a good ad.
If you had the angle just right, it would flip around and whack you in the nuts. So clearly outside the design intention, and clearly not an injury that you should endure. And if you say your testicle got crushed and was removed because you bought this fucking thing, I think you would rightfully say, hey, motherfucker, you should have told me that my testicle could end up removed because I was squeezing my thighs with your thigh master.
Put a warning on it. Warning, do not crush your own nuts.
Well, they basically said, hey, you need to pay for all these injuries that you caused, which is fair, right? But where that line gets drawn is the hardest fucking thing in the world in tort law. And so the tort reform people came up with that same problem. But that's the same problem with politics. It's like, well, somewhere, it's in the Constitution, health. The government should maintain the health and happiness and all this shit of its citizens. But then if you say, well, they should pay for health care, then give fucking incentives and free markets and blah, 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 blah. And you go, well, but it says it in the Constitution. It's written there. The word health is in the Constitution. So there's a viable argument to say, hey, the government's responsible for providing health care, at least on a minimum level. So it's hard. It requires so much nuanced thinking that nobody really wants to engage in. So it's all problematic. But Bitcoin fixes a rule, fundamentally changes those incentives.
It aligns people's mindset, too. If you're on a Bitcoin mental standard, too, you are thinking of a better, where you draw the line on personal responsibility, taking personal responsibility versus just casting blame and well, I didn't know that a chair with wheels on it might slip if I stood on it, okay.
Yeah, but that's the thing is, let's say 1,000 people slipped and fell on chairs. Well, who pays for that? Well, what if all those 1,000 people didn't have enough resources? So we just remove 1,000 people from the workforce? We just create medical bills that bankrupt 1,000 people, and then we have 1,000 families living on the streets? Or do we just go to the manufacturer and say, hey, buddy, you guys made $250 million profit off your fucking stupid chairs. You guys need to pay $5 million to fix this problem.
Help the people that got hurt by it for reasons.
For reasons, yeah. So you can say personal responsibility until you're out of money, and then what? So it's that's the point that I'm trying to make, is all this stuff, it sounds simple to fix until you get into the nitty gritty of it. And then it's like cutting open a body. It's wet and messy, and it's always a little different than you think. So I don't know. It's a tough nut to crack. Otherwise, I would have fixed it a long time ago. That's why this is so fucking important, because it fixes a fundamental rule. And it changes things on a very deep level.
At the deepest, at the money level. Yeah,
at the monetary level. So.
It aligns everything downstream from there.
Yeah.
There was last weekend, there was a big rally event, not to totally change the subject, but Rescue the Republic occurred. Did you hear about that?
No.
We'd talked about Eric Weinstein before. His brother, Brett Weinstein, he helped put together this Rescue the Republic. Pretty big event. It rained for part of it, but decent turnout, and live streamed, and I watched part of it. But Rob Schneider was a comedian on there and opened it and spoke through part of a lot of speakers. I think Tulsi Gabbard, Jordan Peterson, Brett Weinstein, and a lot of speakers were there, some politic guys. But I can see that culturally, people who are attracted to the feeling of, hey, let us have our personal responsibility and deregulation, versus, I think culturally, people in more urban areas, they have different expectations and thinking like, how do you manage larger volumes of people and responsibilities for a community? Where do we draw this line? Now clearly, I believe we've crossed a line with government interventions on things. But getting back to it, it's like you can't just rip it all away and decapitate.
Right.
We push back and change the bar, but people disagree over where that is. And I think you get a crowd at Rescue the Republic, and you got everything from ANCAP to establishment politicians that are trying to realign.
Right.
And it gets messy.
Yeah. Well, that's the point, is like if you said, okay, everyone's responsible for themselves tomorrow, most people aren't going to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So, for anybody who's ever had a medical emergency and been incapable of paying for it, they can attest to it, right? So, people that have had catastrophic loss, they can attest to that.
Mm-hmm.
Like the people facing catastrophic loss in North Carolina right now. Well, that's your problem. Your house blew away. It's not my problem. Go fuck yourself. Figure it out. Pick yourself up by your bootstraps. And 0 of those people are going, yeah, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I withstood a hurricane, so I pay taxes for no fucking reason. I don't expect any benefit from that. Nobody's going to do that. And especially if suddenly tomorrow your house just got blown away by a tornado and you and your family are living in the fucking Tesla and you got nowhere to charge your Tesla, and
I'll come over to your house and plug in. Is that okay?
well, the point is you go, well, that's your problem,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you can take the personal responsibility route right up until you run out of options. And then the personal responsibility says, well, I guess we all have to live in the Tesla until Dad can figure it out. But is that right? I don't know, man.
I pay insurance. Working for where I work at, county government, but we're going through open enrollment this month.
Well, I just finished mine.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the numbers. Numbers go up. It's like, gee, if I really want to insure my entire family at just kind of the basic medical level, say add dental to that, it's like, oh, there's not quite $1,000 a month.
Yeah.
And I do the numbers, and it's like, now I'm in an easier situation where
you have socialized health care, so
it's like, I get it, insurance and how it works, why we want it, why we need it for things. And then I'm in a situation I can feel privileged where it's like, we're not to say we're young, but we're healthy. We don't have chronic issues. We're not elderly. We're not dealing with stuff. Our kids are healthy. We just need basic maintenance, minor stuff. I went to the doctor Tuesday for my annual checkup, and it's like, everything's fine, nothing, blood work, you're good. Okay. And what I think of is how much I've paid for everything in this pool for my own health. Nothing. I mean, what I need is near nothing. And when I have issues, I take care of myself. To say I've not had catastrophes in my life. Other people have chronic needs and issues or whatever, and I help pay for that. I get it. Selfishly, I could say, what am I paying for?
But you have socialized health care, dude. Like you have government-funded health care. So it's always funny to me when public employees bitch about having public health care, because all public employees have public health care. Like, if you go look at the numbers of what you're paying versus what it costs, it's fucking extraordinary, right? So you are heavily subsidized by the government to have that health care that you don't use. And if it comes time where you actually need it, like heaven forbid something horrible happens to you, you catch a cancer or something like that, all that stuff you're gonna overspend by a fucking gazillion dollars compared to what you put into it. Like if you came down with like a serious lymphoma or something like that and required like hospitalization, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, about 2 years of that care and every penny you paid into it is way overexpended.
Yeah, the whole idea behind insurance.
Well, it's a fucking hustle to begin with. I mean, like it's like a car insurance thing. Like,
they're making their money.
Well, the thing is, like with car insurance, it's against catastrophic loss, right? That makes sense, and you can actuarially work that out so it works in favor of the insurance companies. But if you said, okay, everyone has to carry car insurance and that covers all maintenance on the car, then that breaks everything. It breaks the whole fucking model. So the idea is that you take care of routine maintenance, catastrophic insurance covers catastrophic loss. And that should be the same thing for healthcare. You take care of routine maintenance and then you have insurance cover catastrophic loss. An ideal situation is where you have a central single payer authority that pays for your routine medical care, and then you self-insure against catastrophic loss. That would be an ideal scenario, right? The insurance companies could then figure out how to make their profit margins based on actuarial tables, and you could be responsible for taking care of the basic needs. And if you aren't capable of taking care of basic needs, then there's a single payer option where you can do that, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But having insurance as a model for that takes care of everything from your cleanings to your fucking blood work to this and that and the other thing, and that's why it's all increasingly being a cost that's borne by you. But for any of us that work in government to complain about like public health care is so fucking.
And I'm not complaining, but I look at the business model of it all.
It's a scam.
Where on top of, okay, here's your base set of options. You have options. Okay, I get it. Insurance, and then now you can also you can get Aflac, you can get Life Flight, you can get life insurance. You can tag on job loss. I don't even know what they all call them, but there's all these little tag-on, add-on things where, depending on your mindset about it, it could be like, I want to stay safe. I'll put more and more money into these things every month out of my paycheck and cover myself in the case of all these potential things. And my old young mindset is, I'm fine. I don't need any extra nothings. I know how insurance works. I know why an entire ballpark can be renamed Safeco Field, because they're making huge money off of this racket.
Yeah.
I get really cynical about it, and then where do I draw my line as far as insurance as a mechanism that works for a pool of people that need help and that we're working together versus, hey, you can always give us more money. You never know.
Well, that's a fiat incentive, right? It's a fiat model. But like, you have taxpayer subsidized healthcare. I have taxpayer subsidized healthcare. Like I have no. So when I tout things like, well, public healthcare should be an option, people are like, this is fucking libertarian, fucking free market, and we should have fucking churches and country bumpkin nurses and whatever. It's like, okay, yeah, sure, and that's just not how the world's set up right now. So, but for me to have socialized healthcare and then complain about somebody else having socialized healthcare, I go, it's not really a sound argument,
Yeah, and I'm not complaining about the healthcare aspect of it.
We have amazing healthcare.
Yeah, it's really
else in the world. Like we're government employees, so we are like grossly. It's just we have so far exceeded the private sector. It's not even funny.
And in America, per capita, we pay so much for the service delivery. It's off the chart just compared to other countries and stuff.
Yeah,
the amount of money spent on it for the services provided. I mean,
that's Kennedy Jr.'s whole platform was like all those profit incentives are all intertwined. Shitty food, shitty health outcomes, shitty medicine to alleviate symptoms from shitty food and shitty health outcomes. And
it's like a sick care system.
Yeah, well, it's a sick continuation system.
Yeah, maintaining the sickness. I mean, caring for it at a level that
makes sure that you're sick.
You're maintaining sick careness.
Yeah.
So
on that note, our battery's about to die. So.
Yeah, our battery's about to die. We're at 1 hour 20. something. So good talks, solving some more world problems.
Oh yeah, we fixed everything.
We rescued the Republic today
Yeah, we
at
did.
some level.
Oh yeah, hands down. Buy Bitcoin.
Buy Bitcoin. Bitcoin aligns yourself, aligns the planet.
Makes life better.
Makes life better. Bye.
Financial advice. Okay.
Not financial advice.